Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Real Deal Fishing. My name is Josh. I'm sitting here today at Southern Marine Outfitters. Behind me is my Hobie PA 360 14 footer, and in my hand I have my new Garmin electronics. Today I'm going to show you how to install the Garmin EchoMat Plus 93 SV with GT42 transducer onto this bad boy to get it operational for next year's events. I'll be introducing Kevin here in a second and we'll get started on this project. Alright you guys, I'm here with Kevin Fox. Kevin, thank you for having me today. I really appreciate you having me in the store as always. Kevin runs Southern Marine Outfitters. This is the Hobie PA 14 we're going to be working on today. He's going to get started with the actual transducer work, and we'll go ahead and jump right into it.
We'll start by removing the Guardian transducer shield.
For electronics today, we're going to be installing a Garmin 93 SV, an EchoMat Plus with transducer. This is the model here for those that are interested.
Once you've removed your Guardian plate, you have to remove the screws from the inside so that the plate will actually work. It comes pre-installed with the screws in place just to lock the plate down. We'll go ahead and remove these screws. We're just going to set these screws out to the side because they will not be used again. Removing those screws now allows the transducer shield to actually separate and be able to raise and lower. The way these are pre-installed, the drawstring to raise and lower this transducer shield is just tied off in a knot. I'm going to go ahead and get that untied and ready for use.
Have a bracket here for it, like a little cup bracket. Might need it. This transducer gets mounted on the outside of the Guardian shield, and then what we'll do is it'll be retracted into the actual boat itself when you're getting into shallow water or getting up on some rocks or coming up to actually beach the boat, for instance. And you can see here, like, this actually moves really easily in there. And so when we get all this tethered and wired together, basically there'll be a pull cable on the other side of the PA 14 and we'll pull and it will actually retract the entire unit. Alright, so what we're doing now is we're going to actually go ahead and get the cable run through this itself, because we have to do a little bit of mod work to the actual Guardian itself with the way the transducer on the 93 SV works. Alright guys, as with any planned project, we're going through a little bit of dissection here, trying to figure out what the best way to mount this is. The way that the actual transducer itself is designed, you can see how the cord is coming out of the back of the transducer, or at the top of the transducer, which doesn't allow us to flush mount it. And so what we're working to do here is we're going to actually take a hole saw for a moment, and we're going to add a little bit of an extra hole to the interior of the protector. And when we do that, that'll allow this cable to pass through nice and smoothly. We'll end up putting the main plate back on and then reinstalling it back into place. As you guys can see with any kayak build, one of the hardest things for us to work on is actually customizing things to the kayaks. Many of your electronics packages are built for bass boats. Unfortunately, this is no different, but that doesn't mean it's not suitable for kayak use as well. And so we just got to make a few adjustments and get us on our way. All right, guys, so we're done. Here's the Hobie Guardian mount. And so what we did is we took out the little center bracket here and expanded the hole just a little bit in the middle. essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the transducer cable through here, and what you'll see in a moment is as we mount the actual transducer to the back of the plate, it will actually recess in there properly and make sure it's as flush with the mount as possible. All right, more to follow. All right, guys, so what you're seeing here, what we're trying to do at the moment is we're actually trying to set up the hole positioning, because we have to add holes to the bottom of the Hobie Guardian to do our mount. All right, so what we're doing is we're essentially taking the bracket piece that have been used to mount this underneath the back of a bass boat, and we're using it as a pre-drill location. And so what we've done is we've taken the nose portion and pointed it, gotten it centered and aligned with the front of the actual Guardian itself, and then we'll mark our holes, drill them accordingly, and then move forward. As red as I can be. All right, you guys, Kevin had to step away with the customer real quick, so I'm going to continue to press forward here without him. So what we done was basically expanded the hole out here in the center just a little bit to give the cable some pass-through room. Okay, we drilled our holes using the mounting bracket that we would traditionally use on a bass boat. Use that to actually get our pre-drill holes. For this current setup, and given how tight it is, I put 3 holes in and then started from there. And the transducer is now mounted as follows. Okay, basically what I do from here, I have two main things that have to be done. One is that this cable that you can see here that stretches across is the cable that helps retract the actual transducer itself when you get into shallow water. And then in here, we have this little cord cable string that sits in the middle that's connected to a pull lever that we're gonna pull up against that will actually retract the transducer for us. All right, so what I'm gonna do, at least initially, is I'm gonna go ahead and take this out as far as I can get this out. Okay, and I'm gonna start with a simple basic knot. Nothing crazy, nothing too over the top. I can always come back and tweak it later. Essentially what I'm trying to do is just trying to get a hold of that cable so that I can make adjustments from the top side if I need to. Okay, so I just put a small little box knot in it. It will slide with it. Okay, I'll go ahead and lay that over as so. And then I'm gonna mount my 3 screws in place and get my transducer shield back mounted. Okay, whatever you do, don't tighten the screws all the way. Just get them nice and make it so that they can move, they can be snugged up after the fact. Okay, just to make sure that everything gets straightened out and in the right place. Now something I want to show you before we actually get away from this section of the video is how this actually works. So what's going to happen is on the other side, you're going to pull a cable, and as you pull the cable, it's going to retract the transducer into the boat itself. And as you can see, it's going subsurface. So now my transducer doesn't take any damage when I go over rough structure. Okay, pretty cool, huh? All right, you guys, sorry for the view change. I want you guys to be able to see what's going on here. Try and get you guys as close to the action as possible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm start getting some stuff moved out of the way. I open this hatch because I'm gonna take out the actual box holder system that they have in here. Nothing overly complicated, just pops out. We'll just set it off to the side for later. Hobie's got a notice about foam blocking that they've basically left inside the kayak. That foam blocking is sitting here. You guys probably can't see it in the photos, but I do want you guys to know it's here. It's there for flotation reasons. Do not remove it from the kayak. It is meant to be there as part of your safety and part of the boat safety, and so Hobie recommends that you leave that in place. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to do here is I need to start running this cable to its respective location, and to do that I need to take off this little hatch here. And this is going to be the only thing that I think I'm going to have running through this hatch at the moment, which is kind of important to annotate. because if I was going to run any other cables through this hatch at this point in time, I would need to make another adjustment to this. But since it's the only thing I'm running here at the moment, I'll go ahead and take that out, okay, and pop that off. Okay, what you see is a little gasket that I don't want to lose. Okay, and then basically, as I stated before, or maybe I haven't stated before, depending on what cut of the video we're in, I have these little grommets. Okay, these little grommets here, they're little rubber pieces that help waterproof certain cables, and those are going to be in your little goodie care package that you got from Hobie. Forget what you'll see here in a moment. Just sit here and pop this open. Is they've got different types of preset cut holes. Okay, based on the kinds of cables that you may or may not be running through that section of the boat itself. Okay, this one's got 2 wire holes in it. Basically, the whole purpose is to try and keep as much water as possible out of the interior of the boat to not compromise its integrity or flotation in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'll end up taking and transferring these over to a different bag, a different Ziploc bag, and the main reason for that is just to make life easier on me. Hobie didn't put these in a Ziploc bag, which, I mean, it's unfortunate, but, you know, is what it is. If you get one with the tab on it, just cut or pull the tab accordingly. Nothing special. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, okay, I'm basically gonna try and match up cable diameter to whatever looks to be the closest, okay? So basically what I do is take my cable, insert it in there, and see how it looks, okay? And the first one I picked up ends up being the right one. All right, you guys, welcome back. Quick break in the action, I apologize. Had a little hiccup with the phone while I was doing the recording. The long or the short that you missed is that I ran the cable through this center piece here. Basically, I took a custom-made grommet that keeps things waterproof. Ran the wire through that, made sure I ran the wire through the gasket before I ran the wire inside the boat itself, and then fed that through and then screwed everything back in place. So as I move forward in this process, basically my cable is currently sitting in the middle of my boat. I'm currently working on getting access to my battery and getting the battery put in place. What I have here, make sure I can bring it to you, I don't know if you guys can actually see it, is the Dakota Lithium. It's a 12 volt, 23 amp per hour battery. It has the special Life PO4 charger that's required with it. Maybe I'll show you in a later video how we do some of the tweaks for that. But for now, this is the battery that I'm going to be using to run my fish finder unit and any other electronics on my boat. All right, you guys, so coming back up here to the front of the boat, a couple things that are happening right now. One, I've already taken this piece off and taken the screws out for this. Similar to before, so if you, because I missed that section before, this is my actual piece here. These little grommets that come in and out, which is where my cables run en route. The hardest thing to do in this process, besides losing pieces inside the boat itself, is to actually get the cables routed up in here, okay? So what you're gonna see me do here is I'm gonna take these cables, I'll start fishing this way. Usually if I got an extra set of hands, that's always helpful. Not a requirement though. Okay, as you can see. And then as far as my excess cable is concerned, right now I'm just gonna stuff it up inside the boat itself. The big thing that I want from this cable is I just want it to be as out of the way as possible so that when I put my trays back in, that my trays aren't impeded by those cables, okay? Also, because I have a cable running from the battery itself, which you can see right here, pardon my extra cable that's here, that's going for something else later. Okay, this is the cable that runs the actual battery itself. I'll take it, do the same thing with it. Thank goodness for being 6'7", having long arms. Okay, in both situations, I'm going to take both my cable outputs here and make sure that I have my gasket sitting in the right direction position for remounts. Okay, and then I'm going to take both of my cables and run them through that gasket. Okay, so that they're here in place. Okay. And then, similar to before, I need to go through my insert grommets. So similar to before, I got to go through my insert grommets, and I'm looking for grommets that are going to fit those size cables. All right, you guys, so basically got the cables pulled through here. We've gone through the gasket, and I'm basically working on getting the mount for the grommet properly the way that I want it. Taking each of those little grommets, putting them on the actual cables themselves, getting things lined up, and we'll get this thing set in place. As with before, the hardest thing here is to make sure that you don't lose a grommet down the inside of the boat on accident because it's not connected to anything. That's no problem. We're gonna need it before we're done at some point.
So I just need.
Okay, so my cables here are mounted now, screwed in place, and then basically these will come back to the back of my finder. If I need a little bit of extra length, I can just put them through accordingly. One note of warning with these: easy to go one direction, a little more difficult to go the other. Sometimes the cables will push the grommets back through. Try not to do that if you can avoid it. Moving forward, heading back to the front of the boat here. So we're getting prepped to do some work on the connections for the actual battery itself. So this is the way the wire comes through. There's an inline fuse here. We're going to basically mount our connectors to this, and then we'll basically attach to the battery. So given my battery, we've basically done a few small mods. We took some padding back and put it on the back end. We also wrapped around the corners. Basically our objective here, and the only thing we're trying to do, is just to protect the inside of the boat in case something bounces or rubs. Long distance trips, the last thing you want to do is get to a destination and find out that, hey, you didn't have any protection on something, and all of a sudden it rubbed a hole in your boat. That could cause you a bad day, bad week, bad tournament, bad everything. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get that sat in here. So trying to figure out the best way here to mount the battery to the internal post to keep it locked in place. Right now, I think what we're settling on is going to run. We're gonna put together some zip ties and basically use it as a way to keep this thing stable and mounted against the post. Based on the way the battery sits in here, although I'm not showing it to you at the moment, it's actually really, really stable. So when we zip tie this thing down, this thing's gonna be tight and it ain't gonna go anywhere. So while Kevin's working on the battery post, I'm just going to put this back in place. No longer need this to be out anymore to do what we're doing. We've already got the cables run for the for the fish finder, excuse me. So we're just going to insert this back into its little hole here. Okay, it just snaps back into place, clips in here like so, and folds away, nice and out of sight. I'll take my boxes and put those boxes in there later when I get to them. What you're seeing Kevin do right now is just finishing up the electrical component, basically adding the rings to the end of the connections for the battery posts so that we can basically attach to the battery, keep everything nice and waterproof and as clean and as tight as possible. Just adding the shrink wrap to it now. We'll screw it down to the post in a moment, and that'll be it. Everything will be wired and ready to go. The transducer will be mounted, the battery's locked in place. The only thing left to do is to put the fish finder on, hook it up to the cables, put it where I want it on the boat, and go forward. A couple notes before I let you guys go. I've noticed on a lot of the PA-14s that people are running around with, they like their fish finder very, very close to their seat. On the 360, with the 360 drive handle sitting here, sitting down here next to us, I've been thinking about what to do with that. For right now, I'm going to test out my mount here. Basically what I did is I bought the Hobie ball kit with the actual mounting plate. This is a Lowrance mounting plate, but it's actually not a problem for the Garmin mount. Basically my Garmin mount will sit right on top of that. I'll plug everything into the back and away I'll go. Over time, I might shift or move that to what's comfortable for me. Just like anybody else would do, you gotta make sure it's comfortable for you and what you're trying to accomplish. Other than that, we're set up and ready to go.
Rolling.
All right, you guys, we're getting to the end here. I'm gonna wrap things up on the actual transducer install. So my Garmin box is sitting over there. The actual unit itself is set up and just waiting for me to actually mount it to my rack on the side of my boat. If you want to come over here for a quick second, I'll show you this, what we did with the battery itself. Now that the wires are all running, everything's connected, the batteries basically have been zip tied to my post here. This thing is in here really stable, really sound. They don't make a custom box for this battery, so essentially us zip tying it in was probably one of the better solutions, and we put some padding on it to keep it from rubbing the inside of the kayak and causing any further damage. In any case, everything's connected, everything's set up. I appreciate your time today. My name's Josh. This is Real Deal Fishing. Kevin, who is in the video, is kind of indisposed at the moment, taking care of some business with customers in the shop. So I want to say thanks on behalf of him and thanks on behalf of all the fans out there. I'll put comments below for everybody to check out what we had in the boat, what my products were. Please leave comments, like, subscribe, all the above. In any case, till next time, this is Real Deal Fishing. Keep it real.